Greetings, Exiles. I'm your professionally miserable host, Winkers, and I'm here to talk about a build that is near and dear to my heart as far as League starters go. Dominating Blow. It's all that melee strike skill goodness you could ever hope for, but scaled like a minion build and without the shortcomings of needing very specific, often expensive gear to get rolling. This will do it on a low budget, and it'll do it well. How does it do that, though? Well, go ahead and look over the POB real quick. I have it set to high level, which is I believe, yes, 94, with very basic equipment. None of this is terribly good. I guess you could say the jewels are pretty decent, though. Personally, I've never had a hard time rolling those, so I'm just going to give myself a pass on that one. All the same, the configurations are all reasonable, things that you can expect to have up consistently. The custom modifiers are there to simulate certain things that are more difficult to understand. For instance, deal no damage removes our damage from 9 instances of Dominating Blow. Those 9 instances are meant to simulate the Sentinel of Dominance attacks. Additionally, we have minions deal 26% more damage. This is because we run Behead. Behead deals double that more damage, but only when the enemy is on low life, which is below 50%. So this kind of simulates it for the entire fight to give you that accurate DPS measurement overall. I have it noted here. If you have Culling Strike, it becomes 20.8% more damage. It's still good, though, because this build wants that melee range, especially later on if you get the Phantasmal version. We'll get to that in a little bit. But how does Dominating Blow perform? Well, on this low budget with Molten Shell turned off, which I had on a moment ago. If you saw the stats for that, I'm sorry. I didn't want to mislead anyone. We have 6k raw HP, pretty much twice that in effective HP. We have 24% block chance and 50% spell block. That 24% spell block, that 24% block chance becomes 74% for 2 seconds out of every 5 because of how our Ascendancy point works in the Bastion of Hope notable. Kind of an underrated notable, I'm not going to lie. When it works, it actually works all right, specifically for stabs, which we're going to be using. In extended combat scenarios, this build becomes incredibly durable, especially when you work in Molten Shell to block those really big, frightening attacks. You can see with Molten Shell turned on, our survivability goes way up. We basically go from double effective HP to triple. And with Val Molten Shell, that number holds for a very, very long period of time. It just more or less becomes impossible to kill you while it's up. And to be honest, the nerfs to Val Molten Shell and Molten Shell have not changed that all that much. And let's not forget that our elemental max hit is an incredible more than 8 times our raw HP. This sounds pretty good. It becomes a lot better when you realize that spell suppression builds only get this effect for like spells, whereas we get this for all elemental attacks as well. Go ahead, stand in Dominus's Touch of God. You can take it. Where does the build go though? Well, with our first priority unique, one that is often the priority unique with builds such as these, we pick up a Brass Dome. This is probably going to be an expensive item, I'm not going to lie, but you can get a +3 or +4 roll instead and it'll still be amazingly worthwhile. This item alone juices our survivability to kind of an obscene degree when it comes to elemental damage. Essentially, we lose a lot of raw HP, but we gain so much elemental defense that our pool just explodes as far as effective hit points are concerned. The physical one stays about the same, which is fine. It's actually kind of a good news thing, because if you were worried, oh, I need Brass Dome, or stuff's just going to kill me when I stand in the front line, no. Actually, Brass Dome more or less breaks even. You're going to be just fine. Although Brass Dome is better with Molten Shell up, which is very, very nice. Some important things to note that I did not go over just now. Take no extra damage from critical strikes is a huge modifier, and possibly more important, strength provides no bonus to maximum life is a life roll. You cannot use the life mastery that gives you 15% increased maximum life with this body armor. After that, we go looking for other improvements, such as, on our Dominating Blow setup, we drop Minion Speed for a level 3 Empower. Level 3 Empower is not going to be that expensive. You're going to have lots of people, even early on in the league, trying to corrupt a level 3 Empower to be level 4, and then you can pick up that corrupted one for rather cheap. That alone bumps our DPS right up to about 3 million total. Pretty good, you know? Oh, I'm sorry. That alone bumps our DPS right up to about 2.6 million total. You know, when I don't accidentally turn on Minion Speed with it. This is, of course, with our ideal crafted weapon. With a less than perfect one that you could probably pick up from trade and just craft on, it's going to be a little bit less. But this is not a hard weapon to make. To make our ideal crafted weapon, you want to get a +3 staff with a prefix open and 2 suffixes open. So you can craft multiple crafted modifiers, minion attack speed, which will affect us as well, and also our minions. This makes the build feel a lot smoother, especially when you're spinning up, especially against bigger enemies. Being able to spin up fast and having all that attack speed for yourself is a big deal towards getting all this started. That said, the minion damage modifier and the +3 are the most important parts. If you just get the baseline staff with +3 and craft minion damage on it, that's going to be good enough for most stuff, even early on. The really important part about a judgment staff is that 20% implicit spell block. That's going to help a lot in mapping with your survivability, because let's be honest, Cold Snap is a bullshit spell. There's a lot of other bullshit spells, but that's usually the one that I notice when it just blows me up on a character. Now, one thing to consider, especially with this build, is that our weapon is easy to craft. You know what it means when you have a weapon that's easy to craft in Crucible League? It means you get to experiment with Crucible trees a lot, and it's not that expensive compared to most builds. I am very excited about the prospect of trying all of these different, copies of my weapon that I don't have to mirror to get, and seeing what different Crucible trees I can roll on them, because there's a lot of options. What about pushing into harder stuff? Well, that starts with a little gem called Phantasmal Dominating Blow. We deactivate our current Dominating Blow and go to the Phantasmal setup. This, when turned on, is crazy. As you can see, we gained 2 additional Sentinels, which takes our 9 times damage instances to 11. This is more than a 20% damage increase. With Ashes of the Stars, you actually gain another 30%, and it goes up to 14 instances. This is a lot of damage. Also, Phantasmal Dominating Blow is why we run Behead. That extra strike range translates to our Sentinels and lets them get their hits in a little more effectively, because, let's be honest, getting all those mobs onto a single enemy can be difficult sometimes, and we need to account for that. Additionally, we have a future gear set up in the POB, so we can look at what other gear upgrades will have a big impact on the build. You can see here, our DPS has gone up a whole lot. We have a Darkness Enthroned now, so that we can run extra Ghastly Eye Jewels that give, well, a lot of damage and attack speed, which is, that's what you need. Hi, Future Winkers here from the editing room. Actually, Darkness Enthroned has been buffed. The effect currently gives your Ghastly Eye Jewels 75% increased effect. That is going up to 100, I believe, through a range. It could be from 50 to 100, but on the higher end of that, you go from taking 2 jewels and effectively having the effect of like 3.5 jewels to all the way up to 4. So it's actually going to be an even slightly bigger boost than we thought currently. Additionally, we have a +2 all minion gems helmet. This is an expensive mod to find, but there's nothing else for it. It's just an additional level to your gem, and until you hit 30, every additional level is a big deal. It is important to note at this point that we have with 31, so we can actually cut a level. In that vein, Ashes of the Stars is almost not the most important, but more importantly, you can hit 30 without getting a 2120 Phantasmal Dominating Blow. That does help a lot. That helps a whole lot. Although the damage that you get from that 31st level is still good. It's just important to know that after level 30, the benefit from plus level starts to taper off a bit. Additionally, for clear, we run Awaken Melee Splash, which gets additional levels from our weapon because it is both a melee gem and a socketed gem. This is important because you only need a level 2 one, which you can see our DPS drop, but it is imparting an additional level, so now we're at 32. Also, it makes our clear obscene. I actually slept on this the first time I played the build, and I had trouble clearing a Chayula Breachstone, and I put in Awaken Melee Splash, and I went from having trouble to having all the free time in the goddamn world. Beautiful. The build really goes crazy once you have your 6th link, and you can just have a melee splash in there without really sacrificing too much damage. Everything just melts. You will be a wave of death. Of course, with Ashes of the Stars, we up our Sentinel count, which is more damage. Not forget to turn Brutality back on. At this point, we're at about 7 million. On a max tree, things get even higher. Go to 8.5 million DPS, and we're looking pretty good. But believe it or not, this is not the end of it. Much harder to simulate is the effects of an Elegant Hubris Jewel here. When you do that, you gain options in the vein of many inexpensive nodes to reach. There's 1, 2, 3 that just require 2 points. Additionally, this one will be affected. That could be a loss of damage, but we'll get back to that in a moment. And what happens is, these can be turned into notables that give 80% minion damage. Some of these can easily push the build over 10 million DPS on what is essentially a very durable frame. Good. Very good. But enough of that, let's talk about how we get there. You're going to wake up on a beach, kill a zombie, get Glacial Hammer, kill Hillock, and then pick up Smite. Pick up Raised Zombies too, because it's cheap and will actually be useful with Holy Relic around when you pick that up from the Mud Flats a few minutes later. Don't forget to kill Hail Rake for your Quicksilver Flask, and after taking Holy Relic for your quest reward, pick up an Ancestral Call support as well. You'll then comfortably smack your way across Ray class to the jail. Here, you get Melee Splash for your zombies, or you can hold off and get faster attacks instead to make Smite feel a little better, as GGG did nerf the base speed of low-level Scepters in this patch. When you kill Brutus, take Flame Dash. Leap Slam isn't going to feel great with the nerfed Scepter speed. But more than that, we need Flame Dash later on to keep our spell usage up for our spell block Ascendancy. Once you get Absolution at level 12, you spin up your minions and throw in a Smite every once in a while to proc the Aura buff for your minions, but also to proc the Holy Relic Pulse that will heal them. At this point, the build operates very well without links. You can drop zombies as soon as you pick up Herald of Purity, which gives you much more durable minions that function better overall. Run your way on to Act 3, pick up Determination and Pride when you're offered auras. Additionally, you're going to want Convocation and Vulnerability. I forgot about these while I was recording. Convocation brings your minions to you. Very good. Vulnerability is as much damage as Pride, more or less, but without having to reserve mana. You're going to have time to cast it on occasion, so you just self-cast that one. You can pick whichever one you want to start using first. You shouldn't particularly need either of them right away, but Determination will make you tankier, and Pride will make you do more damage, but not necessarily with Absolution. Keep that in mind. After you kill Gravy Sauce, or General Gravicius, so there's no misunderstandings, you get your level 28 gems, and that means Dominating Blow. Get that gem into a 4-link with Ancestral Call, Melee Splash, and Minion Speed, and if you haven't already, hurry your pathing along until you've gained the Resolute Technique Keystone on the passive tree. Congrats, you're ready to crush the Labyrinth. Be amazed at how hard the skill slaps at such a low level, and after you kill Izaro for the first time, cut Minion Speed for a damage support of your choice. I recommend melee physical damage, as you now basically have permanent onslaught going forward. After doing Siosa's quest in the library, you can pick up Feeding Frenzy for your Holy Relic, which will boost the damage of your minions globally. In Act 4, you get Summon Carrion Golem, which you give Maim. Because your damage is universally physical, all of your minions benefit from that as well. And at this point, you're basically on cruise control. Scoop up Multi-Strike from your final support gem quest reward, and swap out Melee Splash, but not Ancestral Call. This will make your DPS so much faster and just obliterate everything. It also makes it easier for you to swing at things yourself, because more attack speed is more attack speed. The Sentinels have a slam attack, by the way. This is what makes it so Melee Splash isn't super necessary, especially early on. It'll clear well enough for you. Ancestral Call, however, is what it makes it easy for you to hit the enemy, and that's very important because you hitting the enemy is what makes more Sentinels, and if you have no Sentinels, you have like 5% of your total DPS. As a final contribution from the editing room, while I was working on this, Val Domination was finally teased. We get to see what the Val version of Dominating Blow does. It empowers up to 3 of your Sentinels, making them giants like from the Innocence fight. They look very strong, they get some new attacks. It's an all-around amazing addition for the skill, because this is going to be basically a free upgrade, kind of between various things, not having a 21 gem yet. A level 20 Val version is going to be very strong. A level 20 Val Phantasmal version is going to be very strong, and because we can reach level 30 without a 21 gem, things aren't too bad as far as budget is concerned. Obviously, getting the 2120 Val Phantasmal Dominating Blow is like the holy grail, but you don't need it, and what we've got here is really, really good. Very exciting. This is a big boost at all stages of the game as soon as you acquire one. Keep your resistances capped. For a two-handed weapon you can use with the +2 melee gems modifier, and maybe get lucky and find a +1 all minion gems helmet for a truly easy leveling experience. If any of this was too hard to follow, there's a link in the description to a 6-hour playthrough that I have recorded. It's in a playlist, it's chopped up into 1-hour bits. I want to say everything I just covered happens in about the first hour, maybe a little more than that, so you won't have to dig too far, but the whole thing is there if you want that extended experience kind of depicted for you all the way to mapping. Additionally, everything I just said is basically in the notes of the POB. There's extra stuff in the POB as well as commentary about various things you can do to improve the build. If you don't know what POB is, that's Path of Building. I will have a link in the description where you can download it. It's basically a planner that lets you do stuff. It's also this, what I'm showing you right here. All of that said, when you get to mapping, the first things you want to push for is your +3 Judgment Staff. If you can't get a Judgment Staff specifically, you can settle for a lesser weapon, but you're going to lose the spell block, and that's going to feel pretty bad when you get to red maps. You might be okay, though. I I haven't tried it since Arch Nemesis was toned down, but yeah, there's a few spots where having not all the spell block can be worse. That said, we didn't get Mystic Bulwark before, and now we do, so it might be less important. All that said, you want that +3 weapon, you want a minion damage craft on it, up to about 80%. That's going to make your damage feel really good, especially if you can get a 5 or a 6 link going. Getting the perfect version of the weapon is also very important though. That said, once you get your +3 weapon with minion damage on it, you can skip and go for a Brass Dome. And Brass Dome is what's going to make the build feel ultra comfortable in tougher content. You won't die. And that's, I mean, how do you put a price on that, right? Not dying is some of the best shit around. That's what we dream about. You just want to be able to sit there and zone out a little bit and kill everything. And only every once in a while be like, oh, this will kill me. And then, you know, move. Again, if Brass Dome turns out to be very expensive, settle for a +3 or a +4 max elemental resistances roll. Honestly, getting a higher armor roll with 4 is probably better than +5, because we get a lot of maximum elemental resistances. In fact, one of the few things about this build that's changed is we get an additional +1 maximum elemental resistance from the new armor mastery, which is located here. Good stuff. Other than that, have fun. Be melee, but don't have the shortcomings. Honestly, other than Bone Shatter, I don't know of a build that plays a strike skill and has such a smooth league starting experience as this one right now. And that's what I love so much about it. Give it a try, and I'm sure you'll love it too. Hi, Future Winkers here from the editing room.